The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the podcast belong solely to the hosts and not the host's past, present, or future employers. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Brian, Miss Berlin, and Mr. Betcher for Bringing Down Security.
Hey.
Hey.
I think I might have figured out why. So before we started recording, my shit was messing up on me on my laptop, and I think I had it set to slimmest battery or lowest performance thing. So I'm gonna update my thing there. So sorry, don't mean to, Anyway, it's been a weekend. Trust me, y'all. Trust me, y'all.
Okay.
It's just been a damn weekend. You know what I'm saying? Chargers lost, football, NFL, whatever. And then
Football, yay.
So Miss Berlin, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
It is what it is.
Just lie. It's a podcast. Nobody knows.
I am doing fantastically well. Thank
Perfect.
you. Mr. Betcher, are you doing all right? We didn't have you on last week. How did you? I see you survived the in-laws, so that's nice.
Yeah. Doing great.
Are they still there? If they are,
No.
remember your safe word? Oh, okay. Safe word, avocado. Say avocado. So, yeah. No, that's cool. I'm glad you were able to have a nice visit with them. So, yeah. Okay. So, just a few announcements. We do have another podcast coming up with our good friends at Blue Mara. Miss Berlin will actually be on with this one.
Yay.
Unlike scheduling errors and other podcasts and O'Reilly stuff and there are irons in the fire. She's going to be joining us. Elizabeth Eubanks is scheduled to be on to talk with us about some things that Blue Mara is going to help us with. Solving if you decided you wanted to look for a security platform like Blue Mara, that's you might want to take a listen. So
yeah.
Let me see. We had about 15 inches of rain here this week. I think we've got major flooding all over the place. So are you getting snow yet, Ms. Berlin?
Oh yeah.
You got snow?
We got snow.
Really? How much?
I mean, maybe an inch, maybe. Not enough to cover all the leaves that are still there.
Okay. All right. Mr. Betcher never gets snow except, in February, and it's ice. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Sleet sometimes.
Oh, that's right. You had Wintergeddon last year or whatever that,
Yeah.
Pooched it for everybody in Texas. So hopefully that won't happen again this year for y'all. Hopefully
probably not. You've got that recency bias. Everybody thinks it's going to freeze just like it did last year, but it'll probably whip back and be probably be warmer than, average.
Yeah.
I just like when it's cold enough here for long enough that it kills more mosquitoes.
That's right.
Oh, there you go. Yep. Yep. We the one thing I do miss about living like in Missouri or there's only a handful of days like this, but it's like you go out and it's 25 degrees outside, but it's completely clear out, and the sun and the moon are just out there, and it's really bright and lovely. And then you go out and you walk, and it's like super crisp because it's like low humidity. I just love that, and there's no wind or anything like that. But we rarely get that here in Seattle. It's always rain or snow or whatever. So I really enjoy those. It's really weird for me, I know, but anyway. So we have some news. InfoSec Twitter is always a buzz with something, whether it be and I mentioned the Ouroboros of people, dogging on, certs and degrees and stuff, or, people trying to still figure out in 2021 what the hell a red team is versus a pen test. And some of that is kind of ancillary.
I got like mansplained by probably a good dozen people on Twitter the other day, because I was talking to a friend of mine that actually does like red teaming and stuff, and he was doing it for a bigger organization and just complaining that it was like completely just not helpful to the customers, and there was no like relationship building and like everything a pen test shouldn't be. And I said something about how I wish there were no more like more of those pen tests, right? I wish there was no pen tests. I wish it was like all like you are red teaming and you're actually working with the blue team, or giving them, or like retesting and
Right.
integrating that as part of the process and making it an
Right.
actual like hands-on engagement type stuff. Like,
Mhm.
oh, this is what purple teaming is. This is what I'm like, yeah, I wrote a whole chapter in my book.
Yeah. Where I work at currently, we do a lot of that. It's not, when I worked at Leviathan, it was very much engagement thing, but we were working with teams, to make sure, doing things like code review and what have you. And now I'm on the other side of that relationship where I'm the one working with the 3P to make sure that, the teams, the application teams or whatever are involved with the process, so when code reviews start or what have you.
You actually
very
get somewhere.
very collaborative. It's very
Yeah.
collaborative. There's discussion, there's triaging of vulnerabilities. They put the assessors put, and I don't call them pen test firms anymore because there are so many negative and positive connotations to pen test. We don't really do a pen test in my opinion. I call them assessors. I call them security assessors, security assessment firms instead of pen testing firms, or, because everybody's like, oh, what's a pen test? It seems like I work with a ton of teams like that. And they're like, well, what are we expecting from this pen test? I was like, it's more of a security assessment. We're just assessing the security posture of your application, service, what have you. It's involving code review, and it involves collaborative effort. It's not us just,
not just like a Hail Mary and Metasploit.
Right. There's no Metasploit being used. As a matter of fact, our third parties, our assessors, they use Burp for the most part because it's a lot of web apps, but
yeah,
there's no Metasploit being used. We don't pop shells like that. If there's any critical or high findings, they are definitely, we definitely bring people in, and there's more communication, unlike what most people would see, which is often helpful. I'm usually there just as a fly on the wall. The security assessor works with the product teams or whatever, and it's only when something goes south that I step in that respect. A lot of times they just kind of drive the boat themselves. So, but yeah, that one reason I have tried to shy away from the idea of pen testing or red teaming, as I think it goes beyond those things in some respects. So anyway, Mr. Betcher, go ahead. What's up?
No, I was going to say we got on that after talking about like Twitter drama, but that was leading.
Yeah,
the story. But if you want
that,
right?
Yeah,
just say you're hiring an army of hackers.
Yeah, that doesn't help either. That just makes it worse. Yeah, because I end up having to explain to the product team's management why this needs to be done or whatever, and then I have to explain to them exactly what's going on and that kind of thing. So, so it kind of goes hand in hand with what we're going to be talking about for some of our stories tonight. So there was a ZDNet article, and it starts out with the title is very long. It's almost a tweet by itself. It says security company faces backlash for waiting 12 months to disclose a Palo Alto O-Day. Now, to be fair, Ms. Berlin and I and Mr. Betcher and I talked about this for 20 minutes beforehand. We actually recorded, and we should have recorded that because that would have been great.
We just have to remember all the stuff we talked about.
Right. And well, there's one thing I can't talk about. We're not going to talk about that. But so there was stop. Anyway, there's this company. It's called Randori or Randori. I don't know how you put the emphasis on the right syllable, but so there was a vulnerability in Palo Alto's 8.1 OS. They have multiple versions of this, and we found that out. They have like a 8.1, 9.1, 10.1. So there's various versions of this, but this affects only the 8.1 software that we know of. Yeah. Anyway, so apparently there's this O-Day that was called an O-Day by ZDNet that this company Randori had sat on for almost 12 months before disclosing to Palo Alto. And Palo Alto released an advisory about the issue, patched it, and said there's no evidence that it was exploited in the wild. But it caused some backlash because there's a lot of folks in our community that believe they should not have waited 12 months before disclosing it to Palo Alto. There's been, of course, Randori, anyway, I'll just stick with one. Randori has lashed back to the community saying, hey, that's just de rigueur. That's what we do when we're red teaming. We use O-days. There's a whole blog post, which I put in the show notes as well, with their ideas on their point of view in this case. So Mr. Betcher, you had a good point before we started that, it was actually fixed. It was just I said it was an O-day, but you had a specific point of view on this.
Yeah. I mean, they call it an O-day. I mean, people misuse that term quite often. And an O-day is a vulnerability that does not have a fix yet by the vendor. Okay. Right. You may be able to get around it some way by disabling a port or whatever, but there is no patch currently for an O-day. All right. So in this case, if you had 8.1.17 or above, you were not vulnerable. And so therefore it was not an O-day, because if you had the latest release, then you were not vulnerable.
Right. So, but in this case, by the time Randori had disclosed it to Palo Alto, and that's the way I'm understanding it, and feel free, because I'm a filthy PM, so feel free to explain it to me again. By the time they had sent it to Palo Alto mentioning, hey, here's an O-day, Palo Alto is like, no, it's already been fixed. They just need to upgrade to 8.1.17.
Yeah, so they either fixed it accidentally,
right,
which is possible, right? We've seen people fix one thing and subsequently fixes a bunch of other things, like unknowingly. So they could have done that, right? Or they did fix it knowingly and then just, I don't know, forgot to put in the release notes or something. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's what came up in the tweet from _MG_. He said, hey, did anyone know, or they did anyone notice that the Pan O-day was fixed in a version that was released over a year ago? And there's a link in the show notes, obviously, to this exact tweet. But somebody had said, hey, was this released, to, preferred release, which is like what I would consider to be GA or a general release. And it looks like the general release version that would have fixed this O-day, quote unquote, was released as of October 8th, 2020, which, according to the timeline, according to Jim Sikora, said that this was, it was fixed even prior to Randori even starting the research. So Randori was potentially working with an older version of the OS of that time. And that's where they found the vulnerability, but it had been fixed either by somebody disclosing it to them before, or, like Ms. Berlin said, it was discovered by somebody doing, proper code review or code audits in their own organization. So
I wonder why they even decided to tell them a year later.
Press.
See, I worry about that. I worry that there's no such thing as bad press. And I don't know if, yeah. See, I don't know who decided, who at ZDNet decided that this was an O-day. It sounds like that there was some not research done, by this to find out if this was done ahead of time. But
I don't know, man. If I find a vulnerability in Windows XP prior to Service Pack 1 that nobody knows about, do I need to go parading all over the place and say, hey, I got an O-day, and that's what this, in an exaggerated form, looks like that to me.
Right. I mean, so we were talking about the bug bounty stuff ahead of time. You've seen several stories online, or you hear stories from people who've submitted a bug bounty. At the time the bug bounty person finds the vulnerability, it is an O-day to them. Then they push it over to the bug bounty company. And the bug bounty company goes one of two ways. Thank you for finding this bug. Here's your money. Or we already know about this, whether they actually did know about it or not, and they're trying to weasel out of a payment or what have you. But so it's only an O day in the mind of the company that discovered it, until it's almost like the Schrodinger's cat thing. It's like, it's only an O day in their mind until they're actually verified that it is an O day. So they sat on this for 12 months and then went to Palo Alto, and either Palo Alto didn't realize that this had already been patched or whatever, but
but there's a flaw there. There's a flaw. 8.1.17 was already released.
Correct.
Yeah. So all they had to do was test it against the latest version. They would have known it wasn't working. Therefore, not an O day.
Okay. So I would counter by saying maybe they didn't have access to 8.1.17. In this case, maybe they only had 8.1.1.5, for instance, and they could only test against that. So they went with what they had, sent it over to Palo Alto, and they're like, "Oh no, we fixed it a year ago. Here's the release." I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm just that's what I'm thinking in my mind, is they only had the version that was vulnerable and they could not update that, or they used it against a company that had 8.1.1.5, and the company railed against it and said, "Hey, what are you doing? This is an O day. We don't have any protection against this," or something like that.
But the problem is they didn't go to Palo Alto for an entire year, even if they knew about that 8.1.1.7 or not, right?
Right.
And
yeah,
and so they say, and this is quote, "If we knew about the bug or didn't, the risk profile to the public is the same." Right. Well, yeah, that's true, because you knew that there was already a release. You knew it wasn't an O day.
Yeah, because if it was, like, what are they going to say in their report on how to fix it? Like, if it's an O day, there isn't going to be anything that you list. It's like, oh, we got this, and now we're going to tell the vendor, because there's nothing you can do about it. Right. But their response is going to be patched to this level, like it normally is with anything, any other vulnerability.
Here's the thing, and I've talked to some hackers that have an O day in their back pocket, and they use it in case they can't hack into their company.
Right.
Then they'll try to use their O day. Right. And so, but then once they get access, they have a better opportunity, being on the inside, to find a way to hack from the outside. Right. So they use that O day to get in. And then once they're in, they try to find a vulnerability there so that they can hide the fact that they've got the O day, and they get in a different way, or they pretend they get in a different way, or they just mealy mouth their way through the report, so that they can portray themselves as a badass, but they had this O day, and that's how they got in, and they weasel their way out of not disclosing it to the company, which means they don't disclose it to the vendor.
Right. Well, so there's a couple things here. So as it is mentioned I believe it is mentioned in the article, patching your Palo Altos, at least I've never done network engineering, but it seems like patching those kinds of things, if you do it wrong, you're going to get in trouble. You get ugly calls from people. Why can't I VPN in? Why can't I do X? Yeah. Our network is complete shite right now.
Especially when you're upgrading firmware and you have no failover.
That never happens. Everybody has at least a couple of boxes to test with. So I think there's a couple of assumptions here. It's the Randori folks didn't test with maybe they didn't test with the latest version of the firmware to find out if this was actually still an issue. Two, they were using this on companies that weren't patched up to 8.1.17, and using it as O day, because those companies couldn't or wouldn't update to the latest version, or can't update because of whatever reason. Oh,
sorry, keep going.
Well, the other thing is, Randori didn't know that there was a fix in place, so they still considered it O day. And somebody reported it to ZDNet as they sat on it for a year. So there's a lot of people who don't know what's going on here, including myself, because the article sounds a bit clickbaity in terms of they sat on it for 12 months or whatever. There's a lot of unknowns here. It's like,
I mean, the clickbait worked. It freaked everybody out.
Yeah. And it started that whole, Ouroboros again of InfoSec Twitter. So yeah.
I've not even been on Twitter lately, so I missed all of it.
Yeah, I didn't see it either until I, was poking around on Sunday morning here. But so I mean, Randori has this thing. They use it as O day on companies that can't patch. They should have some kind of mitigation for this. If they're smart enough to find this quote unquote O day, they should have also in the same breath gone, here's a mitigating factor. Yeah, we're awesome. We have O day. Do. Here's how you might mitigate that. If it's update to the latest version, great. If it's uncheck this box to be able to do Y, have a mitigation, or have a patch.
And it's not an O day though. It's just a regular vulnerability.
Right. It's not an O day, but the company they use it against, or companies they've used it against, didn't know that. Apparently Randori didn't know that it wasn't an O day because they hadn't confirmed it with Palo Alto. And if they had, they probably would have found out that it wasn't an O day, and this wouldn't have even been a story at all.
I bet you they knew it wasn't.
Probably. Because you try it against newer versions of the OS or whatever, and it doesn't work.
Company's not even going to acknowledge your vulnerability. They're just going to say, "Did you try it with the latest version?" If you say yes, then they're going to be like, "Oh, okay, well, let's talk."
Right.
But, yeah.
Right. And that's where you hear with bug bounty people. It's like, oh, I got this vulnerability. And oh, did you try with our latest version? No. Okay. Now it doesn't work anymore. But yeah, I think the word O day is being thrown around a lot, either by the company that, is ZDNet, or whoever decided to leak it to ZDNet, be it Palo Alto or a company that, threw that out there. So it just seems like
we all have colleagues that throw that around. And it's wrong, right? They throw around the word O day and it's not really an O day. So I have to constantly correct people in the security community.
Right.
Yeah.
It's sexy to say O day because, it sounds like you're elite, you're part of the elite folks, you're doing reverse engineering, you're, doing exploit development. You can add that to your, list of, CVs. I've got 5 CVs to my name or what have you.
Or on the defense side, it's like, we need to patch this now. It's an O day.
Right.
And then management is like, oh, shit. All right.
Exactly. We've never used that experience, have we, Mr. Betcher?
Of course not.
Yeah. No, I have used it a couple of times where it was like, hey, this is a Metasploit module. So every script kiddie in the world will be using Metasploit against our endpoints. So
right.
I have used that.
Which would be correct. Yes.
Right. There's a difference between, like having an O day and like, oh, it's in Metasploit, so maybe we should patch this shit, that kind of thing. So I want to say I look forward to further developments on this, but I really, really don't hope that there is no more developments and it dies a really quick death. Because
people will forget about it next week. It's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
My thing is though, if you're a company, you should find better ways of patching things like this that are critical systems. Because this is not the only Palo Alto bug that has occurred this year that was, not good.
Right.
10 out of 10.
Well, it's a 9.8, but yeah, I mean, there are other vulnerabilities for PanOS that come out on a regular basis. And if you have not patched 8.1.17 before now, or before October or December of 2020, you're about 11 months out of date. So, find a way with your organization to get faster updates. If it's, buying another Palo Alto box just to, patch your stuff, or to be able to test those patches, that would be highly, advisable. So yeah, especially with VPN stuff, you should have a failover. You should be able to test those patches. because you don't want to be stuck with only one VPN solution. So, all right. I think we railed against that enough. I look forward to people's hate mail on Twitter. I seriously, I look forward to the strong opinions from our take here. So yeah. Anyway, which one do we want to do next? Do we want to do the FBI one or the education stuff?
FBI is cooler.
Okay. All right. So go ahead and introduce it there, Mr. Betcher, if you will, please.
Let's see. Yeah. Oh, okay. So the FBI, apparently their email server, one of their email servers was hacked, and the attackers used their email server to send warnings about, what was the warning about? Oh, you have systems that are involved in some sort of an attack. So they sent this spam out to a bunch of companies or individuals. And so then the FBI had to sort of send a retraction. Hey, we were hacked, but nothing was lost. We didn't have any PI data, et cetera, et cetera. Everything's okay. They didn't get anything.
Right. So they use this system called LEAP, which is Law Enforcement Enterprise Portal. Somebody got in, sent the impersonating email. How did the FBI then send out emails letting people know that that was actually fake? Did they use the LEAP platform to then send emails saying, no, those emails were crap. These are the actual legit
This is
emails.
the real email. So
this is the real email. Oh my God. I was just thinking of that when you were explaining. I was like, man, how do you yeah, don't click on this link. Click on this link.
Hopefully they fixed it first. And figured out how it was happening.
Right.
And then did it.
Yeah, no.
Because it wasn't like compromised credentials or anything. Like it was legitimate, like you could post to the software and have it send out email.
Yeah, and so the header was legitimate. People were like, this is legitimate. So they, it said, beware, this threat actor is currently working under the inspection of the NCCIC. As we are dependent on some of his intelligence research, we cannot interfere physically within 4 hours, which could be enough time to cause severe damage to your infrastructure. Stay safe. U.S. Department of Homeland Security.
See, the only thing that would have made it better is if they'd have said, hey, if you want to find out exactly how it was done, please send us some iTunes cards or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Or listed a Bitcoin wallet or something.
Yeah. So
they probably didn't want to go to like federal prison. I mean,
right.
Probably still could for hacking the FBI's web server, but
that's true. So they said, so when the person was interviewed by not the good Krebs, Brian Krebs. Yeah. Not the good Krebs, the bad Krebs. He said, basically, when you requested the confirmation code from LEAP, it was generated on the client side. So it's client side confirmation code. Oh, God. Then it's sent to you via a post request. The post request includes parameters for email subject and body content. Then the hacker used a script to replace those parameters with his own message subject and body, and then automated the sending of the hoax message to thousands of email addresses. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
The government paid for this system. The government paid for the system.
The government pays for a lot of terrible
stuff. I know. God damn. Yeah. I'm just dying. It's the little deaths. It's the paper cuts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Software misconfiguration. Yeah.
I do like that the person that he interviewed said, I could have 1000% used this to send more legit looking emails and trick companies into handing over data.
Yeah.
What do you call that type of hacker? Like they're acting unethically, but they're doing it for what they believe is a good reason to highlight the fact that these systems are vulnerable.
A gray hat?
Yeah, that should become like a.
I mean, they didn't do it for political reasons it doesn't look
Right.
like, that's a different thing. I guess
He
it
did
would
it
be.
for the
Gray, because
lulz.
Gray's like right in the line of like ethical and not ethical, right? So like
Yeah,
they're
they-
doing
Yeah.
it. They think it's. I mean, I guess most people think what they do is ethical, but
They did it for the lulz. Yeah.
right, yeah,
Okay, so the reason I think this is so bad is, as we've seen from a lot of the Verizon database, DBIR reports, I forget, data breach investigation reports. A lot of times you're told about something bad from law enforcement telling you. So obviously organizations are getting something from the legitimate government entity saying you've been hacked.
Do you think InfraGard told him?
Oh, no, well, no, InfraGard will tell them in about 6 months. So, because that's how InfraGard works.
Ouch.
Be on the lookout for
FBI burn.
Yeah. Be on the lookout for an email that might have stuff in it from a place that we can't tell you about ever. So, and then they'll have you, log in and you got to call somebody to change your password because that's how InfraGard works and shit. Can you believe that? I had every time I had to go in and look at these bulletins or reports, I had to call and get my password reset. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, it's trash. Anyway, hopefully they've gotten better, but yeah, it's just kind of, this is hopefully they figured out how to fix the confirmation code thing on the client side. And
so now InfraGard has an app for your Android.
Oh, I wonder.
So you do a retinal scan, just look into the camera.
You caught her in mid drink. You caught her in mid drink.
It doesn't even use like Apple Face ID. It like just fake retina scans.
Yeah. 4-digit code on your phone or whatever,
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Yeah, it's kind of damned unfortunate that they didn't do a better job of securing this, but I guess like the person said, it could have been much worse. It could have been, somebody who was actually using it for, more nefarious purposes, and it could have been, that kind of stuff. So, I think we're good. I think I do have one other story I want to add, but that's only because I posted it in our Slack channel about, apparently there's some ransomware, or people are surmising the next phase of ransomware is going to be people owning your Active Directory and then sending out new BitLocker instructions to all of your Windows boxes to pretty much encrypt them with new BitLocker keys. I will post a link I'll post that link in the show notes as well. A lot of people are like, oh my God, and their face was melting in our Slack channel. So, yeah. Anyway, all right. Ms. Berlin, how would people find you if they wanted to talk about all the things that you're involved with? And what are you involved with?
Oh, everything.
Yeah,
you know what I just found out? I got accepted to speak at RSA twice.
Oh, good.
Damn.
Twice?
Yeah. The conference that I promised I would never go to.
Now, are you there in an official capacity with your company, or is this for something else? Your extracurriculars?
Both. So I will be going and talking about Sysmon.
Okay.
Like using Sysmon for secure things.
Okay.
And then I'm on a panel for Zero Trust.
Wow. All right.
With one of the guys that we had on the podcast talking about his Zero Trust book a while back.
Okay. Doug Barth, or I forget the name. Yeah.
Jason.
Yeah. It was an O'Reilly book, I think. Yeah.
Just fix it in post.
Jason Carvis, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. I think
there you go.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So bad.
No, that's cool. That's cool. We
I'm
also
on a
did
panel with a dude that asked if I would come talk about Zero Trust. So
very cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right. And that's in February. So you get to enjoy $500 a night room in downtown SFO. And are you going physically, or is this virtual?
No, I'm going. So far, I'm going physically. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and then also to other things that are in the works now. So, maybe B-Sides Charm and B-Sides Nashville.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
Yeah, and some stuff like that. I don't know where I'm going next, but just, I guess, find me online at InfoSystir, INFOSYSTIR. or on
Okay.
Slack.
And Hackers Health and
And Hackers
InfoSec
Health.
Roleplay.
Yep. All those
There you go.
things.
Okay. Mr. Betcher, I noticed you haven't posted on Twitter in a little while, but if you have a Twitter handle, you want to tell people about it and what you do?
Yeah, I've got a project called Log MD. It's a log and malicious discovery tool, helps you configure your Windows systems to help you find attacks in the logs and all that good stuff. So if you want to check it out, it's log-md.com. And my Twitter handle is @BetcherPwned, BOETTCHERPWNED.
Okay. All right. And your log MD also has a Twitter as well. It's log_MD, I believe, as well. So
Yes.
yep. I believe your partner in crime, Mr. Goff, does a bit of tweeting from that one from time to time. So
A little bit. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. You can follow the podcast, of course, on Twitter, BreakSec. You can follow me, Brian Break, on Twitter as Brian Break. We have a Slack channel with a lot of awesome people. We have I would say a pretty good community. We have some moderators and a social contract. And if you are interested in joining that, you can DM us on Twitter, the BreakSec, and email us at bds.podcast@gmail.com if you're looking for access to that. We don't say no to people. The only thing we say no to are bots, and that's what we're trying to cut down on, is just randos coming up in there and dropping things. So we do have moderators, Scott and consulting CSO, and Paige and Sec, and Cherokee JB, and Dave Cybuck, and oh man, am I missing one? Scott Pack.